Hello, friends, and welcome to this podcast, confusing and ambiguous as it is. I talk a lot about pop music. I use that term pop music. Sometimes it sounds a little bit derisive, to say something is pop. That means it's kind of popular, therefore not as cool as the underground stuff, right? But sometimes pop, sometimes pop music is the great stuff, the really good stuff. I mean, the Beatles were pop, Beach Boys were pop, the Zombies, all these bands that we love from the olden days, they were pop bands. And certain bands now that I like, recent bands, have an element of pop. They always kind of call back to some things from the past, styles of songwriting, styles of instrumentation, sounds. People always pull from earlier eras, and there was a time in the 60s when people were putting out albums. It's amazing how many albums came out in 1967 or 68, 69, around there. And there were songwriters, there was people like Burt Bacharach and Paul Williams who were writing songs for other people. And there were things like, phenomenons left and right. And you had things like the Monkees that was like one of these fabricated bands. But then the songs were pretty good. I mean, don't you like the Monkees songs? Even though it may, there's argument, they may not actually be playing their instruments or whatever, but the songs themselves are good because they were written by good songwriters. One of those songwriters I just mentioned, Paul Williams, is primarily now associated with things like the Muppets and things like that, and he's kind of not cool, but he actually is quite cool as far as his skill at writing a beautiful, perfectly constructed, catchy pop song, this kind of breezy, summery pop song that you can't get out of your head, and you have to admit you like it even though you've heard it too many times. You may have, or maybe the association with the Muppets is too much for you. But before the Muppets, Paul Williams was a songwriter who wrote songs for other people. And, you've heard his songs recorded by the Carpenters and the Monkees and tons of other bands and musicians and singers. But he himself had a certain level of popularity in the 70s where he was, he had the hair and he had those aviator glasses and he was on the variety shows, a lot of times doing one of his pop songs like Old Fashioned Love Song or something like that. But he wrote some great pop songs. And some of his early albums, his second album is called Someday Man. Someday Man, or is it Someday Man? It's a song. The song Someday Man was recorded by the Monkees. I think Davy Jones sang it, and it's such a great song. It's on here. A few other great songs on here. It's very nice pop. It's like, I don't want to use the term sugar pop or bubblegum pop, but there is an element to a lot of these songs that has that sound, the production. This has got some of those Wrecking Crew people on here. You look at the names on here. The first name is, Hal Blaine. Oh, he played drums. So the musicianship on here is incredible. The songwriting is great. They're fun pop songs for all times. And then, he's got this album, which is called, I think Old Fashioned Love Song is the name of it. Yeah, just an Old Fashioned Love Song. And it has that song on it. And plus it's got We've Only Just Begun, which I think started as as music that was written for a bank commercial. But it was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful song that, the Carpenters developed it into a huge pop hit, and Paul Williams and his co-writer, co-workers became hugely in demand as songwriters. And then Paul Williams started putting out these albums, and there's his version of it, and a few other songs on here that you're going to recognize. But it's just really solid pop songwriting. Maybe not as cool as Harry Nilsson or something, but in a similar vein. I think you can put Paul Williams in a similar category with Harry Nilsson. You can certainly enjoy both of their songs as incredible, beautifully written pop songs. But anyway, a couple of albums by Paul Williams that you should check out if all you're familiar with is his work with the Muppets and whatever other things. I mean, he was in Phantom of the Paradise. He literally played Satan in that. So the guy is pretty cool. Plus, there was a documentary about him not too long ago. The title sort of demanding that we all realize that he is still alive, still among us. He's still out there, and the guy is absolutely cool. I think he's been around. You know, he's done some things that may be questionable to people that think maybe it was uncool of him to write songs for Muppet movies. But I mean, they're good songs. He wrote great songs, and that's what I care about. I care about the songwriting, the skill, the craft, the attention to the emotions of music, those magical chord changes, those great lyrics, the emotional feelings that you get from certain kinds of songs. There's no magic to the fact that he has had a million hits on the radio. I mean, there is magic to it, but it's not like you can't see why. It's obvious why. He writes good songs. So that said, check out these early albums by Paul Williams. They're fun. They're breezy, summery pop. They sound great in the car if you can put your top down and drive through Hollywood. You know, that's where they sound really good. They have that kind of California vibe to them with the style of writing in some cases. You know, not all of them, but it's a fun collection of songs. His early work, I highly recommend it. Check it out. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you again soon.